In this warm evening, with the blessings of God, I welcome you all for the 7 days international virtual faculty development program on research design and research proposal writing. This 7 days program is jointly organized by Department of English, Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education, Tamil Nadu, Malaysian Industrial Relations and Human Resource Association, Malaysia, Cap Camorin Trust, India, Lavender Literary Club, India. Today is the fifth day of FDP. It is the right time to welcome you all the participants, resource persons, academicians, research scholars to this program. Now I invite Dr. C. Jyoti, Associate Professor, Department of English, to welcome the first session's resource person. Over to Dr. C. Jyoti.
Ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, she has texted that she couldn't join. She is having some network issues.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
Now, it's a pleasure to introduce the chief guest of this evening. One of the resource persons is Dorian, Associate Professor, is the head of the School of Communication of the Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia, Jakarta. She is actively giving lectures, not only of the School of Communication, but also at the postgraduate program of the Department of Communication. And in Jakarta, her teaching and research focus is on organizational communication and public relations, corporate social responsibility, and digital communication. She is an awardee of the Super Summer Scholarship, Stanford Canada World Youth Ministry of Education and Culture. And Erasmus. Now, Dorian is involved in the various social organizations. So she is associated with various social organizations of the nation, as well as in the international level too. And as a head of Collaboration Association, she serves as the head of Research and Competence Committee of Asia Pacific Public Relations Research and Communication Association. She is also active. She is also actively writing in professional forums of the in the international and the national levels as a reviewer and as a speaker. She is also the founder of the House of Kartika Kusuma, which oversees DK Consulting. It's a public library and a batik gallery. She has a bachelor in mass communication from the Universitas Sebelas Maret, and she has a magister in communication science. She has a doctorate in communication science from Universitas Indonesia, Jakarta. And she is associated with the organizations. She is the head of collaboration division of the Indonesia Communication Higher Education Association. She is the head of the research and competence division, Indonesian Public Relations Association, and committee of Asia Pacific Public Relations Research and Education Network. She has got so many years accounting to her professional experience, and a lot number of publications are on the they are listed like a train, so that which shows that her publication background is very strong. And it's really so nice of us of you to accept our invitation, ma'am. It's really a great moment to have you here amongst us, a right personality for the right forum. Welcome, ma'am, and the session is over to you.
Thank you very much. It was such an introduction. Well, first of all, I would like to um, thank you to the committee, especially Dr. Frank It is an honor for me to be here as a speaker in the International Virtual Faculty Development Program, especially with the topic on research design and research proposal writing. So my topic actually will be on writing an effective and impactful research paper. I believe that all of you already has the experience in writing academic paper. So what I will deliver is trigger and is a reminder. I won't teach you, but we will have a discussion later after I deliver my presentation as a trigger for further discussion. So let me share my PowerPoint. I hope you can see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. Oops. Yeah, it should begin from the beginning. Okay. I'm Doreen Kartikawangi, and I'm from School of Communications. And my presentation will be on writing an effective and impactful research paper. So, what is special about academic writing? All of us as an academic very used to write a paper, but what kind of paper that are impactful and effective? Because from our paper, actually we communicate our thought, our ideas, and disseminate our research result. So let's make it important, because if our paper not clearly writing, it won't be give an impact. People won't understand and won't interested to our ideas. So as an academic writing, usually we ask to focus on theory. Why? It's a level of thinking. It's a level of thinking, and it's a level of delivering conceptual thought. That's why usually journal or another academic publications ask for theories. It can be a qualitative or quantitative, but in language, usually we also has a text analysis as our method in research, and then we will present it in a paper. So in qualitative, we have to explain what may be observed. Is it any specific thing, or it's just common? In this point, we have to understand that actually people can see one thing from a different perspective. So it's okay. It's okay because people has their own thought. That's why theory is important here, because with the theory that we choose, we can give an explanations to our readers, our audience, how the theory explain the phenomenon. And in qualitative research, perhaps we can criticize the theories, or build the theories, or add something that it is specific in our research. And for the quantitative, yes, quantitative derived from theory, and sometimes testing the theory. But again, we have to have a kind of dialogue, discussion about the theory itself, and give a prediction how the theory will contribute to the future or in the current phenomenon, but explain how it contribute to the analysis of the phenomenon that we try to find. So as a paper, as we are all academics, paper must advance theories, not enough to replicate Western theories. Since we are in Asia, so usually we use Western theories and implement it in our context. It's okay, but not enough just to replicate. We must have something new, some new thing to say about the theory. Is the theory fit or not? And then why and how? So the deeper explanation is in the questions on why and how. Should refine and critique or extend or develop the theory, because if not, then we just test it. So for the advanced academic writing, we need to go further, not only test it, but also give a critique. For example, um, such a Western theory, let's say communication accommodation theory, which said that people usually when have a communications, they adjust to each other. When you use this theory in our context, in our culture, is it um, goes like what it is in Western community, or there is something that we have to add, or there is also a sort of low context or high context communication in it. So that's kind of a critique that we can give to the theory. And also we may extend or develop the theory itself. If the theory is a grand theory, can we use it as a middle theory? Or middle theory, we can use it as a grand theory. So it's depend. We have to develop based on our research. And there is a important thing that we have to understand. If you have just a fact, do not send to a journal. It's not enough. It should be really research and with the theories and also a rigid methodology. I have an example. Just now we have discussions on the auto-ethno-methodology. So it's kind of strange because in the auto-ethno-methodology, people look at their own experience and explain it as a research result. Perhaps it's a kind of, how can you say, a reflections, but not enough. It's just like a story. So we have to go beyond that kind of research. Next, please. Now we will talk about the papers with quantitative data. So more papers are published with quantitative data as they are relatively easier to do. But we have to be careful what kind of quantitative research that we have. For example, quantitative is positivist, which are derived from a theory. So we have to build the components of theory, what theory that we use and how the theory related to each other. we have to read a lot of reference. People mention 100, 200 reference for the systematic reference review. So it's kind of a challenge. But again, it's not only to explain, but it's to discuss the theory. And you have to argue why we use this theory and for what. How about the other theory that's similar? We have to argue, and then we make a clear statement, conclude the argumentations. So for like quarter 1 of Scopus Journal, they ask for representative sample at least 300 respondents. But again, 300 respondents from how many the population? How big is the population? Of course, there is a sampling technique that we have to follow. And then for quantitative, we also need to have a clear hypothesis that again, critique, refine, or extend theory. Not only the influence of X toward Y and etc., but perhaps we develop, for example, path analysis, big data analysis, and others. That's why we have to read previous issue of the journal for sample article. Let's say you want to publish in what is the highest rank of the language journal in India, perhaps, or in internationally, because my area of research is communications. I'm not really know the journal in language, but I believe there is a high rank of a journal. So you have to read the previous article in this journal in order to understand the characteristic, the style, and the criteria that we should fulfill. So it's take a long time. Sometimes, digging deeper on this state of the art of the topic and the theory. Next, please. And how about papers with qualitative data? So actually, even though it's qualitative, we have to has kind of hypothesis, what we call proposition. This kind of predictions. And we should offer fresh insight. Again, not only repetitions, but what is new in this theory. We know that inductive and deductive is, of course, there is a differences, because in qualitative we will have the deeper result, but in quantitative we have a wider explanation or result. So if there is something new, fresh insight, for example, rhetorics. I'm sure that language learn rhetoric, because rhetoric in communications field is important. We grew up from rhetoric. What is new in rhetoric? Sometimes people think that, for example, rhetoric is just delivering informations or arguing some issues, but from other perspective, there is another meaning, what we can say as generating meaning. Rhetoric or communication is generating meaning. So this is something new, because usually people only see as delivering informations to other people with an effect, with intentional things. So we have to think out of the box. What is we can give to the state of the art of the theory itself. Next. So now we talk about conferences. Is it important, conferences, for us, for you, for me? Of course, of course. Conferences is a means to deliver our thought, discuss it, and beside networking, of course, we also learn from others. And in conferences, sometimes they offer also the publications. After we present our research paper, then if it's good enough, they offer our paper to be published in a journal, for example. So we have to be careful who hosts the conference. Is it credible enough? Is it competitive? Or it's easy, everybody can send and everybody then present their paper, or there is a review. Yeah. So this is really important. For the beginner, it's okay to have the experience sending an abstract and then get the acceptance and then present the paper. But for magister and doctoral students, we have to look at the credibility of the conferences and what they offer to have an added value for our CV, of course. So in peer review, we need to have some papers accepted in competitive conferences, but some close invitee-only conferences do excellent work. So it's really depend on our track record. Yeah. But again, if we can we present really good work and then they appreciate it, so usually they invite us to publish our works in a journal. Okay, next, please. This is some international academic conferences, but mostly in media and communications. However, as language, as tools of communications, yeah, we can also you can also contribute to this academic conferences. Yeah, for example, international communication associations. The International Association for Media and Communications Research will be on 11th of July, and it's free, online and free. And you can learn from I don't know, around 1,000 of paper. So it's really interesting. You can visit the RMCR website. Yeah, and you can learn from the website. It's still open and free and online, and we can adjust to our time. So it's really nice. And also we have AMIC, Asia Pacific Alliance for Communications, and Philippines they have PACE, and in Indonesia we have ASPICOM. Perhaps in India, there is a annual conference that has a credibility. So prepare for this kind of conference. Next, please. So how is it to turn the conference paper into journal paper? Is it easy or not? Well, of course there is a challenge, but we can do it. We can do it. So usually in the conference, just a moment. Usually in a conference, editors look for papers in good conference. That's why we have to prepare for good conferences. Perhaps our paper will be chosen to be published in a journal. We might be invited to contribute a chapter in a book or a journal. In a chapter in a book, it's okay too. But again, look at who which publisher that will publish the book, and also who are the contributors of the book itself. So it's kind of leveraging and also climbing up into the prestigious academic level. And as an academic, we have to be open, open-minded as well as open heart. So we can take the feedback from the conference and revise our paper. We cannot not lack of confidence, but too confident is also not that really nice, because usually then we will close our mind, our heart doesn't want to have a criticize of our paper, doesn't want to take a feedback. So we don't have the learning process if we put ourselves too high. There are always a room to add something new, always a room that we can enrich our knowledge. So it's okay if there is a feedback, or not only feedback but mean feedback, it's okay too. And the third is we have to change the format from the conference paper into the house style of the journal. So we follow the requirement of the journal, studying the characteristic and fulfill it. Next, please. There's just an example. ASEAN Journal of Communication is a prestigious ASEAN journal. I am one of the editor there, and this journal is in Scopus quartile 2 before, and now in quartile 1. So if you're willing to publish in this journal, this is an example. That of course there are many journals that we can see, but as an example, we can see the journal impact factor, of course, a check in SIMAGO, the rank, and also make sure in the Scopus, if they mention that they are indexing in Scopus, we have to check to make sure that everything is right, not hoax or fake. We have to follow the submission guidelines. We see the journal informations, and then who is the editorial board, and then we study the submission guidelines, and follow it. And if there isn't any information, we can see the acceptance rate. For the Asian Journal of Communication, they used to reject like 80%, at 80% rejected. Why? We can see it later on. Next, please. So in submitting, please check. Are they need a cover letter? If yes, prepare it well. A cover letter is not an abstract. It's not an abstract, but a paper that a letter that explain what is your paper about, what is inspired you, and what are you challenging, and what about the theory. Yeah, the theory again. We discussed previously that theory is really important. So highlight that part in the cover letter to make sure that the editor understand what is the what is inside of your paper that are really interesting and useful for the area of your research. Next, please. So you can see in the website, are they need a cover letter or not? If not, so it's okay. But if it said cover letter, usually they have a template. You can download it and write the cover letter. Next, please. The second is write the abstract. The abstract is the last thing that we have to write. Why? Because abstract is an abstract. It's an expression of what is inside our paper in a brief statement. So we have to finish our paper first and then write an abstract. The abstract is summarize the conclusion with method and data. So again, we have to explain in a clear and brief way what is our theory and method and how we gather the data and what is the result or conclusion of our research. After the abstract, usually you ask to write the keywords. So when we choose the keywords, make sure that those keywords is also used by many people. So it's easy when people search with this keywords, your paper will generate to the search engine. That's make it easier to cite because citation is a good for our paper, not just because for our ego, but let's make sure that our work is useful for others. If there is no citation, that means it's not useful. But how can people know our work is good or not, useful or not, if we don't promote it? So it's okay after your writing get published, you can promote it in social media, for example, in the all staff mail list if you have one, in the community that you belong. So it's okay because the aim of the research and the paper is to disseminate knowledge. Next, please. So cover letter and then abstract is kind of a checklist to make sure that we have it before we submit it. Next, please. So again, this is the third part of submitting. We have to submit a clean paper with good English, no spelling mistakes, and follow the house styles. For example, double space or single space. What kind of reference that we have to follow, like APA style or Harvard referencing system. So it's depend on the journal. And with how about the tables? If there is any specific requirement for the tables, we have to follow. Sometimes, because we confident enough with the research result, we don't care about the writing, but the writing actually show our quality in expressing our ideas. Just be careful with the requirement of the journal. Next, please. So this is an example. As a reviewer and editor, we have tools. We have tools. We actually not only just take as what they said, but we have to read and see it carefully to make sure about the clarity of objectives. So the problem statement should be clear, and what is the objective of the research or the paper should be clear too. And then again, about the conceptual and theoretical rigor, methodological rigor, analytical. Yeah. Usually, if you don't have enough references, then our analytics, our analysis is not that deep. That's why we need a lot of references. And then language or readability. Is it easy to understand? It's kind of different between Western and Eastern people. They used to use a direct language, but for Eastern, they tend to has a high context. For high context people, it's not that easy to understand what is the meaning of what they said. So we have to be careful. And also there is differences between British or American English or Indonesian or India or Malaysia English. Usually it's different, so we have to see again the requirement. And how is the contribution to the field? Do we give something new, something interesting, something that might be wider in the future? So it's really important to explain the contribution to the field. For example, for me, it's communications. Perhaps you have a different field, so it's look at the field. Next, please. And usually after writing a paper and then we submit it, of course, we are waiting for the result. There is a step for result submission. As an editor, usually see the first time. Is it reject directly, or is it good enough to send it to reviewer? it was rejected by the editor, usually because different mission. So, for example, for the ASEAN Journal of Communications, of course, a paper about Africa doesn't fit. Again, what is the journal about? We should understand it, like really understand. So we will have a, how do you say, mission, the same mission with the journal. For ASEAN Journal of Communication, if not on communications, then reject it directly. How about language? Yes, language is okay, but has to be in the perspective of communication. Language as tools of communications, for example. Again, if there is no theory and poor data, it will reject it directly. And also poorly written. Yeah. Usually we, in the first day, I also learned from the speaker, there is a Grammarly or another tools that we can use. But again, and don't trust too much to that tools. Yeah, you have to read it again and then maybe ask someone else to read. Is it easy to understand or not, or good written or poorly written? So good journals give a good feedback for rejecting. Usually for ASEAN Journal of Communications, when I review a paper, I have to write 1 or 2 pages of comments. So we read carefully and give a good feedback, even though if we reject it. Yeah. For people who really get into the paper, sometimes more than 2 pages, it's okay. Don't get hurt with this kind of feedback. Yeah. Usually, if we get hurt, then we are lazy or don't have motivations to rewrite. So it's okay because feedback make us better, actually. Yeah, to be positive. So revise and resubmit. Yeah, and most common outcome is major revision. I believe that everybody have this experience. We got notification, major revision. It's a good news because at least it's not rejected in the first step by the editor. Yeah? It goes to the reviewer and we have a feedback. If you have a notifications on minor revisions, that's mean accepted. So we can be happy. Next, please. This is a manuscript evaluations. I'm sorry for the typo. Usually about the form is grammar, syntax, dictions, and then is used referencing system that they ask or not, and then discernible. Is it follow the systematic of the journal or not? For the content, is it justified research? Choices are clear data, presentation critical, analysis again, and then logical arguments, and clear contribution to the knowledge. That's we have to make sure that all this checklist is fulfilled. And then this is the same step actually for the peer review. Next, please. Please let me know if the my time is over. Okay. For some notes, editor usually asks for revision before forwarding manuscript to at least 2 peer reviews. So, again, the editor already read it and asked for revision. I have the experience of this kind of issues. I just submitted, and then after 3 days, I got a notification to revise the paper. Shocking, yes, but it's okay. Just revise it as they ask, and then submit it again, and perhaps they can appreciate the revision and forward it into 2 peer reviews. So, except for the text rejected manuscript, first decision is usually major revision. So, when we understand that usually major revisions, and when we receive this kind of notification, it's okay. We do the revisions. After that, manuscripts sometimes go through 4 rounds of reviews. I have a colleague from Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. He is a professor, a really good professor, worldwide professor, and someday he explained to us about the process of the journal, and he also said that got revision like 66 times from a very prestigious publisher, a professor, and asked to revise like 66 times, and he did it. He said it's okay. I learned from this journey to understand their perspective. So I learned from him. He is a rock, because usually we get upset and then let's send it to another journal. So 4 rounds of review, not that bad. It's okay. See, usually the journal has a rejection rate. This is for the Asia Media Journal. They have 84.21. That much, yeah. Text rejection and also reviewer rejections. And this is the peer review process. I think some of us, perhaps editor or journal management, and we also has this kind of flow. And yeah, we understand that because we have journal missions, and we have a quality that we have to how do you say, maintain in order to sustain the rank. So yeah, sometimes it's kind of mean to author. But again, we have to go through this peer review process. Next, please. Main reasons for rejection. This one is from another references. So test rejections and reviewer rejections. Again, it's almost the same topic, not within the journal aims and scope, not comprehensive review of past studies, unclear research problem, unclear study framework, lacks detail of methodology, incoherent discussion, and poor writing. If we reflect to our work, daily works, when we supervise our students, we understand about this. But when we, as an author, we sometimes forgot about this. So this is a reminder. About review rejections, again, methodological issues, analysis not in depth enough, not so extensive discussion of finding sebar rating. So in discussion, we have to go deeper and discuss the result with the theory that we use, and also perhaps there is a additional findings that we can add also in the discussions, and of course we can suggest it into the recommendations. Next, please. I'm almost done. Before submitting, ask your colleagues to read the manuscript, proofread and edit meticulously before submitting. Again, read again. Yeah, sometimes a small thing we find here and there, so we have to revise it. Do not depend on software programs to check grammar or format citations. We use the tool, it's okay. We use the software, it's fine. But after using it, you have to read it again to make sure that everything is correct. If English is not our first language, it's okay too. We can ask someone who expert in English and grammar to read and give a feedback. And then the fourth is make sure that we follow instruction in the information for author section and also the author guidelines. In submitting our revised manuscript, write a comprehensive point-by-point reply. So if the reviewer give a review, a note, we can reply it, yeah, under their note to make sure that everything clear. Even though you don't accept their review, it's okay. Just give an argumentation why. So make it the editor and reviewer easy to trace the review and the note that they give. Next, please. Remarks on academic writing. Yeah, try to be readable and understandable. Simple words instead of high-valuing ones. It's a high context communications. Yeah. Consider that academic journals maybe requires readings for first-year college students. Yeah, we used to ask our students to read some journals. So if the journal written by PhD, then we ask our undergraduate student to read it. Perhaps they found difficulties if we use the not simple words. And then scholarly discourse is logical and persuasive writing, not esocentric and complicated. Yeah. Usually people want to look like they are smart, using complicated writing, difficult words. So for journal, no need to be like that. So, condensed writing, tram, kilometric writing, and then writing clearly is explaining simply. Next, please. This is just a picture how the reviewing process is going. So there is a lot of people that usually criticize us, criticize our writing, but if we have goals and persistence, then we can get through all those feedback and our paper is accepted. Next, please. So that's all my presentations. Hopefully it will trigger or motivate us to write a good paper and get accepted at a high level journal. Thank you. I give back to the moderator. Perhaps you will have a question and answer.
Thank you, ma'am. That was such an informative session. Thank you. And there are quite a lot of compliments in the chat box. And before reading the questions from the chat box, participants, would you love to ask any question?
Ma'am, Madam Rema.
Yes, sir, please.
Hello, Dorian Katigawangi, apa kabar? Di Indonesia.
Kabar baik, terima kasih.
Ya, saya Dr. Ganesan dari Malaysia. Okay, very nice slot, Dorian. Okay, very nice slot, very good for on the topic on the journal writing and also research article writing. Okay, if in case a research paper is totally rejected when we send to a journal, okay, doesn't matter whether it's index journal, Scopus, ISI, or whatsoever, if it's totally reject, what is the next course of action? I mean, can we submit to another journal? Because maybe sometimes another journal may accept it after going through the review process. Maybe there is a possibility that our paper may be published in another journal. What do you think, Madam Dorian?
Yeah, that's a good questions. Again, we have to have a confidence, and we have to have open-minded. So when we got rejected, it's okay. We have to read carefully the reason. If the reviewer give a kind of written feedback, read carefully what is the feedback and why they rejected, and we revise it and then see in another journal that are fit in this in our paper. For example, the aims of the journal and the style of writing and also the scope. So it's always a way to make it. Perhaps we have to change the titles, or we have to rewrite into a bit slide to another perspective. It's okay too, because if we have a research and we don't publish it, what for? We have to disseminate our thought so people can also learn, and we also learn if they give us a feedback. So I'm agree with you, Dr. Karisa. So
yes, Dorian. Yes, I agree with you, because sometimes when our paper is not published, we get disappointed, feel down, and so on. So for those who are writing papers, because I used to write a lot of papers, I hope we can always have a positive mind that definitely sometimes the paper is rejected. Okay, so we can try to overcome it by see what is the correction need to be done, or maybe we can send to another journal if it's totally rejected. Thank you very much, Dorian. Terima kasih ya. Terima kasih.
Yeah, sama-sama. I want to add a bit. If this kind of meeting can create a network, and we know that someone is an editor in some journal, we can ask them. Not because of connection, like in the negative terms, but they can see whether our paper fit in their journal or not. So,
Yeah, correct.
yeah, it still follow the peer review, but there is a way to make it because of the network. Someday I have an email from my Thailand colleague. Um, she asked me if I have a colleague that a journal management because their postgraduate student need to publish. If not, they will drop out, like 2 students. So I asked my colleague in Indonesia, can they help? Yeah, they they accept it, but still in the review process, it's okay too. At least the student is like we say for people life.
Yeah.
Yeah, not drop out because of they don't publish anything for their work. Still need to get through to the review process, but there is a way. Yeah. For the beginner, of course. Yeah, for us that are already in advanced level, we have to work harder. Okay, any other questions?
Hello, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr.
Yes.
Ganeshan, for that wonderful question
Uh,
because you would have voiced the question from so many minds. And now, anybody else?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am,
Uh,
please.
my name is Nilofer. I have recently joined my PhD program and I have not yet published any paper or written any paper. I just want to ask you, I belong to the subject English literature. My question is, what is the difference between the major difference between framework and methodologies, and what are the various methodologies that we can use in my subject English literature? Can you suggest me, because there are this is not a science subject, there are not many available for English literature. So I am confused between the framework and methodologies, and what various methodologies can I use for my particular paper.
Um, you are in the middle of the research or already with the your promoter already done or I'm not.
It has been only for 4 months since I have joined the PhD program.
Oh, I see. Yeah. How can I suggest you? Perhaps you can go to Atmajaya website. We have a linguistic doctorate program in a level, and they have also a journal. You can discuss it with them because I'm not in the language area. I'm afraid that I make a mistake in give a suggestion.
Okay, ma'am. Can you tell me the difference between methodology and framework?
Yeah, methodology is how you will gather the data and how you will analyze the data and also how do you make sure that your data is valid and credible. For the framework is based on the theoretical that you use as um, the framework. I mean, like uh, your thought. You figure out your thought with the theories. That's the framework. But methodology is how this framework implemented into your research. So if you have a theoretical definition or conceptual definition in your framework, in the methodology, you will have to make the operational definitions on all the concepts that you use in the framework to make sure that you have uh, uh, how to say right data. Is it understandable or not?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. The framework is based on the theory that you use, and the methodology is how you do your research based on the framework. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. And now we have a question in the chat box. How to improve the visibility of our research articles? Do you have suggestions to maximize the acceptance of the research manuscripts?
Oh yeah. Again, on my presentation, I will give my presentation later on to Dr. Frank, perhaps. Yeah, there is a checklist. Yeah. First is the aims of the journal. Is it fit with your paper? Or in the other way around, is your paper fit with the aims of the journal? First of all, make sure that, and then if there's any specific requirement, for example, if it's mentioned that qualitative journal, so please send a qualitative paper. Don't ever send quantitative paper or text analysis paper. It must be rejected directly. And then again, the clarity of your thought and theories that you use and how you discuss the theory with the result of the research. So analysis part is really important because the existence of researchers is in this analysis. Yeah, theory, there is a theory that we can use, and perhaps with the analysis, the deep understanding of the research, and deep discussion with the theory, we can contribute in, for example, revising the theory or extend the theory into our context. Again, make sure that there is a contribution to the field. Whatever your field is, make sure that we give a contribution to the field. Hopefully it's answered.
Okay, ma'am. And we've got one more question. Can we have a format for good article or paper?
Pardon me, can you repeat it? Sorry.
Can we have a format for good article or paper?
Yeah. Can we have a good format article or paper? Yes, a good format, of course, follow the author guideline because each journal has their own style, has their own guidelines. For example, paragraph, should we indent or just go through like that? You know, it's harder to read, but if the journal asks, there is no need to indent new paragraph, we have to follow. The systematic of the journal, usually background or introduction. What is the difference between background and introduction? Yeah, we have to read carefully to the guideline so we fulfill the requirement. There is no such a specific format that I can say because again it's depend which journal that you want to publish your research paper. Thank you. Any
Thank you
other
for that
questions?
explanation. And now there are messages trailing up the chat box telling that it was an informative session. It was so enlightening, and they have been congratulating you and thanking you for that wonderful session. Really, thank you so much, ma'am. It was bombarded with information, most of the part which was new to many of us here. Really a wonderful and fabulous presentation. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much again, and I put my email ad in the chat box. Perhaps we can have a further discussion via email. I'm happy to communicate with you. Thank you very much again. I give back the floor. Thank you.